Okay, so we are going to be doing a challenge once again. So the link for today's challenge is bit.ly/8kyu-4, and the title for our challenge is flick switch. So now let's understand. Create a function that always returns true or true, so true in capitalized form or lowercase, for every item in a given list. However, if an element is the word flick, switch to always returning the opposite boolean value. So what does this mean? So first we have Codewars. So since Codewars is not flick, we'll return true. But then we get the next word to be flick, so we'll return false. And then now we'll continue returning false for every word that is not flick. So code will now be false and walls will be false. If we were to meet another word flick, then it will turn back to true. So flicking is switching between true and false. So at the beginning we have true, but when we flick now, we return false. Then chocolate will give us false, adventure will give us false, sunshine will give us false. Yeah. And then in the third example, we see bicycle, which will give us true, Yamoni will give us true, then flick will give us false, sheep will give us false, and then flick will give us true back, right? So that is exactly what flick is doing. So we are going to train. Click on your end, it should show us train and not train again, but because I've already done it, that's why it's showing us train again. So we'll train, right? Okay, so we are going to be doing everything here for this case, probably. Okay, so we're trying to do this flick switch. Now from the look of things, we can see that we receive a list of words and we return a list of boolean values, right? Okay, so meaning that what we are trying to do is iterate through the list and then append the boolean value for that word. So what I want to do is I'll create a variable called word boolean, which will initially be true because it is the boolean value of the word. Then anytime I flick, it will become false. Okay, so I'm going to also define a function called flick. Okay, and it will take in the word, it will take in a boolean. So if the boolean is true, it will return false, else it will return true. Okay, so this is a simple flick function. Okay, so if the boolean is true, it will return false, otherwise it will return true. So meaning if boolean is false, it will return true. And then now this is where, so our main program starts from here. And it seems in Python they don't allow you to define a function within a function, unless I'm mistaken. Okay, seems so. So if I can't define a function within a function, then we'll have to do everything within this function. So what we are going to do, I'm still going to create my word boolean variable, and it is going to be true. Why? Because initially the value that we get anytime we check the word is true. Okay, so Codewars we return true. Is anytime we meet flick that we return false. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to iterate, okay, through the list of words. So that's going to give me, I think I can make this big. Okay, good. So that's going to give me for word in LST, right? We'll do something here. But before that, you remember from the question, right? Here, they were returning a list. So you take a list, you can see it being shown by this square bracket, and then we get an output of a list which has the true, false, and all that. So we'll need to have a list. Okay, so I'm going to do it, call it boolean list, and it's going to be empty. Okay, then now for word in list, if the word is equal to flick, right, what I want to do is check what the word boolean is. Okay, so if word is equal to flick, then check whether word boolean is equal to true, then flick it. So if word boolean is equal to true, set word boolean to be equal to false. Okay, then after setting it to be equal to false, what you do is you append it. So we'll have boolean list.append, which is a method for list in Python which adds a value to the list. So when we append it, it adds it to the list. So I want to demonstrate it briefly in this visualizer. So let's say I have a list called names, right, and it's empty. Now if I do names, if I say user1 is equal to Jojo, and I say names.append user1, right, and then I print names, we'll see that names will have a value of user1. So let's jump to the end, and you see names has Jojo within it. Names is a list. Initially it was empty, but now it contains Jojo. So that is how append works. Okay, so let's go back. So we are going to append here the word boolean, okay, which is now false. So now that's if the word boolean was true, but if it was false, so else, so it can either be true or false. So if word boolean is true, take it to false because we are flicking, and then append that to the boolean list. Otherwise, if word boolean was false, which that means, it means that set the word boolean, right, to true, and then append again. So we have boolean list dot append word boolean. So this handles the complicated part of the code. And now, so if word is equal to flick, do this. Else, all you have to do is append the word boolean, because the word boolean doesn't change when the word is not flick. Word boolean only changes when we have flick. So as long as we don't have flick, we don't have to worry about word boolean. Now the next thing we have to worry about is lowercase. So this says flick will always be given in lowercase, so meaning that we don't have to do anything. The check we are doing here is enough. A list may contain multiple flicks, which we've handled, and switch the boolean value on the same element as the flick itself, which we've effectively handled. That's the reason for flicking it. So what this is the flicking, because initially it is true and now we make it false, so we flick. That's the same thing happening here. We are flicking on these two ends. So that's the reason why we flick before we append, so that we append the flicked value at the word flick. So if we should run this code, right, so let me zoom out now. When we run this code, we should get it working and giving us the results we need. Okay, so we are getting an error. Good. So the reason we are getting this error is because, as we talked about in functions, when you write your function, you are supposed to return, but I didn't return here, so that's the mistake I made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to return the boolean list, and this should solve everything. So the reason why I noticed that is because I didn't return is because of this none here, right? None means I returned nothing, but I should expect a list. So that's the reason why you must not forget to return the boolean list. Okay, so let's test it now, and it works. Let's attempt for all the other cases, and it satisfies everything, so we are right. So from here you can submit and move on to the next challenge.